Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to tonight's second half. Before we jump into this exciting second half, a couple links. As many of you all know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to tonight's second half, shall we? All right, folks, tonight's second half is a two-part interview done with a former animal control officer. Just a lot of amazing information shared in both parts. Let's get into it. Hannibal, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Good, brother.
Thank you for taking some time out of your evening to spend with us. Now, we talked for a little while prior to the interview and got to know each other a little bit. I know that you're going to kind of recap on the first experience that I shared with everybody, but you've got some other stuff that you want to share. So I'm going to turn the mic over to you. I don't know these experiences, and I think that's the best way to go about it. So the mic is yours, my friend, and feel free to share how you want to.
Okay. So I was an animal control officer for 8 years, carried a gun and a badge. We did everything domestic to wildlife. We dealt with animals. We did, cruelty investigations, if somebody was harming their animals, and dog fights, stuff like that. But anyway, that story, I got called out for a injured deer on a trail in a forest, probably about 2 miles in. It was starting to get dark when I got there, trekked in, found the deer. The deer was down in a really shallow creek bed, and its neck was visibly broken. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, well, how the hell could this have happened? The deer's neck was almost, turned, go facing the other way. And it was laying on its side in the creek bed.
Right.
And I was just like, there's no way this deer could have just fell and done this. It was only like a little 3-foot drop into the creek or something like that. So I go to put the deer down, and I noticed, like, right before I take my shot, I'm like smelling a funky smell, real musty body odor, swampy kind of, mixed with a little bit of like roadkill kind of smell. Okay. But I put the deer down, and as soon as I put the deer down, something yelled like a wild man. Like, probably, it felt like it might have been maybe 40 feet away, the yell. And I looked up, gun drawn, and peeking behind a tree, which this was closer. It was like about 20 feet away. I see like a red eye shine, and I'm like, what the hell? And I pull my flashlight up, and it darted back behind the tree and growled like it got pissed off that I put the flashlight in its face. So I didn't get that good of a look at the face, but I saw the hand, and its hand gripping the tree, and kind of like a gorilla's hand. It was like gray, kind of like a gray tint of skin,
like a leathery kind of.
I mean, it looked like an ape's,
Right.
an ape's hand. Is the best way I could describe it. And I knew at that point I was not dealing with nothing normal here, and I tried to track back 2 miles back to my work vehicle, try to get out of there as fast as I could without running, because I just had that feeling like if I took off running, that was it. This thing was pissed off. It didn't want me there. And I'm pretty sure that it was the one that maybe broke this deer's neck, and maybe it was pissed off that I shot. I don't know. I have no clue.
Right.
But it chased me. Like, I heard footfalls the whole way back, man. It was tense. I think at one point, I think I had yelled, I'm an officer. I got a firearm. Whatever these things were, they followed me up out of there. They didn't give a shit. Excuse my French. I got back to the vehicle. I peeled up out of there when I got off that trail. Went to the ranger station, and I told the rangers, there was some crazies out there yelling, hooping, and hollering at me, growling and crap. And they, the one guy kind of carried on, started laughing. The other guy, stone cold face, like he didn't even really crack a smile. And once the other guy kind of settled down, it was the older guy was like, they aren't crazy people, man. They're Sasquatch. And I looked at him like, are you, kind of like, are you serious? Like, I kind of knew what I was dealing with, but I, didn't know if they were, messing with me or if they were serious.
Yeah.
But then the other guy laughed at first. He was like, no, really, we don't go out there at night because how territorial they are. Like, they've chased us off a few times. One guy said he's fired a shot. So
wow.
That's that story.
So that, like, pretty much just at that point, I mean, I don't know how prior to that experience whether you believed in them or not, but at that point,
I did.
Yeah.
I mean, like I told you anyway. My family is Porch Creek Band of Indian, so
yeah.
My mother's aunt used to talk about Sasquatch, Dogman.
Yep.
Back before people were really talking about Dogman, so I was
really,
aware.
Yeah, that made it solid though for you. Really quick, I just want to say something that you and I talked, and I had made a comment a while ago, and you are one of the very few people that actually kind of solidified this statement that I had heard when I was younger from my family who are Native American. And, I was told that there was a tribe of Dogmen that not literally, but figuratively walked hand in hand with Native people across the Bering Strait when it was a land bridge. And you had, pretty much stated the same thing. And I was like, wow, that really, I've never heard someone say that. Yeah.
Well, my aunt said they traded with us. They were very civilized back then. Some of them wore clothes. They used weapons. Yeah. They understood English. They understood language, apparently. And they helped us fight off some things, too.
Yeah. It was really cool just to get... Because, you hear something, years, and then you're just like, you don't forget it, but then you don't hear anybody ever say anything about it. You hear, these stories of Alexander the Great meeting them or Christopher Columbus, and then, then you and I talk, and you're like, yeah, check this out. And I was like, whoa, hey, this is what I heard. So, yeah, definitely cool. But I didn't mean to interrupt you. The mic's back to you, so sorry.
Oh, no problem. The other story I want to share, it involved 3 of us officers. And this story really, it goes back to when I was younger, man. So I'm gonna start there. So when I was about 20 years old, I was hanging out with about 6 friends, and they like to go, check out, haunted stuff, right? And there's this this like park area, this trail. It supposedly was, the urban legend that the kids talked about. Apparently, a girl was murdered by her boyfriend, and one of those stories. They say, oh, if you sit there on the trail, that you'll see fog pop up and all that stuff like that.
Right.
Well, we went out to this place. I'm not even going to say the name of this place because this place is active and it's dangerous. Maybe I'll share it with you, but I don't want to name this place. But we got out of the vehicle. We got there. First of all, we pulled up to this park, and it's closed off. You're not legally supposed to be there. But we were young and stupid, and we were driving down this road that leads to this park, and the park is gated off. And you look to the right, and there's this big field, and all I see is eye shine everywhere. And I'm a city boy, so my heart dropped. I'm thinking I'm seeing monsters at first, but then the headlights hit them. It's just a bunch of deer out there, and it's a bunch of fog out there with the deer. I'm like, wow, that's still a little weird. We get on the trail, and first thing that happened is we saw like a white figure. Like, it was too far away to tell. It was maybe somebody wearing a white gown or something. They kind of like crossed the trail in front of us, maybe, I don't know, 100 feet away or something. And we're like, what the hell was that? And nothing really else happened that night, but we got up out of there because when we walked to the end of the trail, a big plume of fog like hit the trail, and we all kind of got freaked out and left. Well, we came back maybe a year later, and it was a bunch of us again, and we get to the halfway point of this trail, and there's this big bush that's sitting in the middle of the trail. I mean, you can't even see through it, and it doesn't even look like it's supposed to be there. We never saw it before, and it's just sitting there. We walk up on it like, this is a little weird. All of a sudden, growling, like deep, nasty growling, and the bush starts shaking, right? 3 of my guys immediately, boom, they're gone like the flash. I mean, they left us behind. So 3 of us are sitting there. Whatever this thing is behind this big bush is growling, and I'm like, hey, I had a firearm on me at the time. I said, hey, I have a gun, and it didn't acknowledge that, and then the bush literally started moving towards us, and I mag dumped. Okay, I dumped into this bush, and guess what? The bush kept growling and shaking, and then the whatever was sitting behind this thing had to be the one holding it up. And at that point, me and the other guy that were remaining, because everybody else left us, we took off running. I'm running and shooting. All of a sudden, we're hearing big, heavy footfalls behind us. Boom, 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 boom. We got back in. We ran back to the car, peeled up out of there. And don't you know, years later, I'm working as animal control, and I get caught out there for a dead animal in a tree to this very same trail years later as an older adult. And I get there, and right outside the trail, there's a dog that's been twisted up in a tree. Now, I don't mean like how, like a mountain lion sometimes will drag an animal up in the tree and it'll be kind of like slung over a tree or something like that. No, something like tied its legs. Oh, it was, like a pretzel to the tree, like a small dog.
Wow.
And I had no idea what could have done this. I'm thinking some sick person probably did this.
Right.
But I'm on this trail that I had a bad experience on years ago, so I'm real leery. I look around. I was really no proof of anything, so I left. Got called back out there again, and maybe I can get one of the officers that experienced this with me to call in to verify this with you. But this time, I called back up. I'm like, oh, I'm not going back out there. let somebody else needs to experience whatever the hell's going on. And once again, all three of us get there, and in the same freaking region, not the same tree, there's another dog hanging by a tree. So, you know, it's starting to get dark. We say, all right, well, we're just going to walk the trail. And this, you know, I don't scare easy. I've been in a lot of situations, but this is probably the first time and the only time in my life I've started to feel terror. And maybe you could explain, or maybe, you know, some of the listeners could explain what maybe this could have been, because I don't have a clue, you know, what I experienced. But we walk the trail. All of a sudden we see a shadow, and it's already dark, and we're in a wooded area. Whatever this thing is big, and it's darker than dark. I mean, it's black as night. And it peeks out into the trail, kind of steps out into the trail, and kind of darts back off to the left, like back into the woods. I'm like, what the hell? So, you know, we walk up closer, and another shadow pops up, and it's right by this drop into this real shallow creek, but the drop is like, I don't know, like it's a good 8-foot drop down into the creek. We see one of these shadows over there by the by this embankment or whatever, and I run towards it, and it like it jumped off into the creek, but I didn't hear a splash or nothing. And I look where it was standing by a real scrawny looking tree, and I'm looking where the head reached, and I'm like, damn, this thing has got to be 8 foot tall, whatever it is.
Wow. But
here's the thing about it. I got a good look at this thing, and I couldn't tell you what color it was. I couldn't tell you if it had fur. It was lean. It wasn't like a big boxy Sasquatch either. It was tall, and it was lean, and it was blacker than night. And this keeps happening. This thing, whatever these things are, they're popping in and out of the woods. We're hearing chattering, like children chattering, like, you know, like almost like in the distance, like kids chattering or something.
Okay.
Weirdest sound. It's the only sound that I heard.
Like not like a baby crying, but like
no,
kids talking, or
like
gibberish.
Some teenagers in the distance talking. You know. Okay. Bunch of teens or something like.
But nothing you could make out. You couldn't make
out.
So it was almost like a gibberish, but like how kids sound, like a high pitch, not like an adult. But
and I meant to say that we were hearing this sound before we even got on the trail. We were starting to hear this, like, you know, chatter. You know, like a bunch of people are talking. Wow. In a distance. Well, we finally, I mean, we got our guns drawn. We're freaking out. I'm behind a tree because these things are popping. I can't even explain to you how terrifying this was. How these things were just in and out of the woods, getting closer and closer. We turn around and we hightail it back to our vehicles. And as we're walking back, we're walking, like, it's three of us, and we're walking side by side. And the guy on the far left slams into the ground in front of us. I mean, hard, like a linebacker hitting from the back. And I immediately drew my gun again, and I'm turning around. I don't see anything. And he gets back up, and he's pissed. And he's kind of a skeptic. Like, he's freaked out just like me and other guy are. But he's in denial, you know, like he's thinking like this has got to be somebody playing tricks on us. And he gets up and he's all pissed, and he's thinking that one of us pushed him down. Like, we're all walking side by side. How could we have pushed you down that hard? And we got him back up, and we got in our vehicles and got the hell out of there, and we didn't go back. That was probably like the creepiest situation I'd ever been in while on duty.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, What did you guys? Did you have any kind of speculation of what this thing could have been? Like, with the other people that were there, did you guys kind of talk about?
The one guy that got pushed, like I said, he believes that in weird stuff, man. But he was so, like, when I found out later, he was so freaked out.
Uh-huh.
We all were, because at one minute we're thinking, oh, there's hunters messing with us, like. But that clearly wasn't the case when we would see how these things were popping in and out and disappearing on us, or whatever was going on. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, that's insane.
I want to know how the hell my buddy got pushed like that, and we're walking side by side. One of us would have saw somebody run up and push him.
Yeah.
We didn't see anything. Wow. There's something out there. I remember I met an old guy, and he told me, yeah, there's a family of Bigfoot that the families that live behind that trail are protecting. This old guy told me this. I don't know about that. Whatever these things were, unless Bigfoot has that kind of ability, I've never known of.
Yeah.
I don't have any kind of speculation for what they could have been.
That's really
I don't
strange.
think they were ghosts. I don't think they were ghosts. They weren't spirits. They were physical, but for some reason, black as tar, just black.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously, I mean, people have heard spirits and, poltergeists making physical contact, but
True.
I mean, these things had some sort of, a different kind of physical presence,
Yeah,
to be able to tie a dog.
I promise you, like, it definitely was not some, ethereal, being. This thing was solid.
Yeah.
Whatever these things were, they were solid. They were bigger than us. Now, at the time, I was 240 pounds. I could bench 350 then. The other guy, he was about 270. He benched more than that. Another guy wasn't a small guy either. We all were big guys, and this thing dwarfed us. I'm just under 6 foot. I think I was probably the tallest guy, but I mean, these things were tall, and they were fast, and we all talked about it later, and we were like, did you get that feeling that whatever you do, don't shoot at it? We all had. I had the feeling like I was, ducked behind a tree, praying that one of the other guys didn't shoot. I had this weird feeling like if you shoot at it, it's going to escalate. It's going to get bad.
Wow.
It was like the most dreadful, ominous kind of feeling that I've ever experienced.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty incredible. Like, obviously, it's got to be.
And I'm an artist. Like, I used to, when I was young, I used to draw comic books and all that stuff. But I went to school for graphic design, and I remember somebody told me, why don't you draw some of the stuff you see? Like, well, I'd just be drawing a big shadow.
Yeah, yeah. Now, do you feel like that was the same thing that was in the bush? Like, is that, like, from when you were younger?
Probably.
Yeah. That's pretty intense. And
man, like, there's guys, man, I'm telling you, like, when we encountered that thing, whatever the thing was holding up that bush, man, I shot 12 rounds of 9mm into the bush. Then, I reloaded and was firing while running. And it was dark, at the point where I was running and shooting, I wasn't bothering to try to see anything, but we heard something running after, so I knew that whatever it was, there's no way it could have dodged everything behind that that I put into that bush. So, well,
that's pretty intense, man. Yeah. And, like,
we never found out what was going on out there.
Did you ever get the dogs down? The
oh, yeah.
Now,
we got them down and got the
Was there any kind of markings on them?
Well, that's the thing. I guess I should have spoke about that. No, there was no bite marks or anything, but they were terribly mutilated. I mean, they were twisted up like pretzels each time, twisted up on the tree. I don't know. I think one little might have been like a poor little Pomeranian or something. Pomeranian, and Can't remember what the other dog was. It was like a long-legged dog, and its legs too was wrapped around the branch. Never seen anything like that. Very weird. The whole experience, you know, I didn't smell anything weird. You know, like I've had encounters where I've experienced what I thought was a Bigfoot, and I've smelled them. You know, like the time I told you the experience where I was after I put the deer down. Like I could smell that thing. It smelled to high hell. Whatever this was, I couldn't smell it, or if it had a smell, I was too spooked to pick up on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's friggin' terrifying. Your buddy getting pushed at the same place.
I mean, he went flying, man. It wasn't no normal push. It was like if you ran at top speed and then, slammed into somebody with your whole body. Lay there and let that marinate for a while before he got back up.
Right. Yeah, that's incredible. Wow. That's absolutely terrifying. And
I can tell you about this place, and let me tell you about this. Since I was young, something always has happened when going out there. Even when we were on duty, when I was younger, and I can vouch that there's activity at this place probably all the time. We went back. I told you I did. Me and my coworker at the time, we because of that experience, we got into ghost hunting.
Yep.
Bought all this equipment and everything. Well, we went back, so that should tell you like how like if most people with any sense wouldn't go back to anything like that, but we went back, and we brought our cameras and everything. We got permission from the ranger, and we went back there, and sure enough, man. We had cameras out, and it's like a bridge. Right before the bridge, we weren't even there 10 minutes, and we hear something come flying up that creek bed. We're hearing branches and stuff breaking, and it's the same creek bed, about an 8-foot drop. Whatever this thing was running up that creek bed. Do you hear me? It ran up it, and I flashed my flashlight into the, we all did. We, put our flashlights into the bush to see what the hell was coming up the creek bed, and all I saw was brown fur. Now we don't have grizzlies in Ohio,
right?
I remember when I was on duty one time, a deputy saw a black bear, but that was near the Indiana state line. So this wasn't no freaking bear, whatever this was.
That's
so this is the first time that going there that I actually saw something other than blackness, and it was brown fur. And we aimed our guns and was getting ready to fire at that point. And it was like this thing knew and jumped back down, and we heard the loudest splash, man. This thing was heavy. I mean, it was heavy. And it went trucking. It didn't even bother to, cross the creek and run off into the woods. It ran straight down the creek, straight down the freaking creek, and then ducked off into the woods. And all I saw was like a shape, I managed to, get my head over the embankment and look down into the creek to see like a dark shape, kind of duck off into the woods.
Right.
But nope, nobody managed to get a picture.
That's
whatever the hell it was. All I saw was fur. I didn't see a face, eyes, hands, anything.
Is there? I mean, obviously you saw fur, so it's some sort of animal or creature or whatever. But with the other thing, has there ever been any reported kind of satanic activity out there, like cults and stuff like that in that area?
So we didn't find anything, like even the urban legend of some girl getting hacked up by her boyfriend. That was bull. That didn't happen. There was nothing that we could find that would explain what happened to us.
Yeah, some spots just have that kind of bad energy to it.
Whatever it is,
with
though,
nothing happening there, So
it's pretty damn active. That's all I'll say. It's active.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. Wow. Huh. Now, I guess you and I had talked. Now, you had shared a couple of things with me that your aunt who lived up in Alaska, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You had said, hey, this bear man. Can you explain a little bit about that to everybody?
So one time when
I
I went we went up to Anchorage and visited. I've got a few family members up there, and she used to always, my family thought she was kind of eccentric because she would always talk about the stuff that they didn't want to talk about. Like my grandfather, he wouldn't talk about it, but she would. She would talk about stuff, and one day we sat down and she was telling me about this bear spirit. They say it's a spirit, but it's a physical being, and it's like, I guess any other kind of cryptid. It's a bear man, and she was saying that apparently some of the natives have experienced this thing, and it's almost 20 feet tall, and it walks upright from time to time, and it's like I don't know. That's all she told me about it, like it.
Yeah. That's
she didn't
cool.
tell me anything about it attacking, but she just said that people see it, and it's so damn tall that when it stands up on its hind legs, you see it over the trees.
Over trees, yeah. I love hearing like old.
And it's like people are like, oh, well, how could something like this hide? Well, they're hiding somewhere.
Yeah. There's
something going on. Like, so I talked to a park ranger one time, and he told me a few really weird stories. Like, he told me about a time they were walking a trail and got into a clearing, and these trees were uprooted and then slammed back into the ground. If you can picture that.
Yeah.
Imagine uprooting a tree and then slamming it back into the ground by its top. Not
upside down. So the roots were, yep.
Yeah. We don't have any. I've looked into. There's just nothing that we have that's flipping trees and slamming them back into the ground, like imagine I'm trying to think of a tree, like I don't know, like a pine tree or something, and being slammed down, bristles and all, everything slammed down upside down into the ground.
Yeah.
What the hell's doing that?
Yeah, and like you said, in Ohio, there is no, like, a black bear isn't going to do that. They're not even strong enough. I mean, they're strong, but they're not strong enough to do anything like that.
Plus, they can't pose their. Ain't happening. I know big tree, and these are big trees. It's not like some little
flimsy little Christmas.
This is
tree.
You would think of like the Bible pre-flood giants.
Yeah.
Type of would do this. So there's some frightening stuff going on in the woods, man.
Absolutely.
And if you can ever, some of those rangers, the park rangers, will tell you some stuff, man. I've been told some stuff.
Yeah.
Some very weird stuff.
You brought up an interesting point, and you and I talked about this too, which was cool. Like people with this bear man, where would something like that hide? Yada yada. And people doubt that. Like, I had said to you, where my town is in upstate New York, there are bear in the woods. Now, people who live in town would never see one unless it came into the village and climbed a telephone pole. We know that bear exists, but how often do we see a bear? So if we know these things exist, how often are we going to see? It's very it's kind of common sense that you don't see wild animals and creatures that live in the wilderness are expert at camouflage, expert hiders.
And they can smell us coming.
Yeah, especially a predator. A prey, not so much, but a predator would be. That's how they have to live anyway, to hunt. So it's very it's common sense when people say, why don't we see more of them? Well, because why don't we see more bear then?
I think these cryptids have somewhere to go, though. I really do. I think they're they're going underground.
Yeah.
There's so many caves. Like I can't tell you how many times I visited Mammoth Cave as a kid. My parents used to take me. And have you ever visited Mammoth Cave in Kentucky?
No, but it's a hot spot supposedly.
Man, my father told me stories that.
I heard
So my father's a Vietnam vet.
Yeah, the north side is supposed to be the bad part over there.
Okay. Well, my father told me stories that they supposedly removed giant remains out of Mammoth Cave many years ago, and it was in the news and newspaper and everything. And Smithsonian
disappeared in Smithsonian. Yeah.
It was literally the Smithsonian popped up to verify something and gone.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a guy.
There's plenty of places. People don't realize how many places they can hide. There's so many places that these things can hide.
Yeah, there's a guy named J.C. Brown, and he was back in the 1800s. He was like an explorer, and he had started exploring around Mount Shasta in California and looking at old mines and stuff, and went into one of these caves. Well, and this is in the news. People can look this up on the internet. And J.C. Brown discovered all of these large, 8, 9, 10 foot human skeletons with stories from Native Americans saying that these people were an ancient race of, native people killed, and they were supposedly, I guess, killed by other native, because they were big and they were aggressive.
They were cannibals.
Yeah, and killed in these caves. That's the easiest way. Fight them. Pin them down in their cave, and when they try to come out, kill them or starve them to death.
Yeah, they lit the. Well, I know with Lovelock, they put pitch and lit it, and they burned them out.
Yeah, yeah. And Smithsonian came in, and those skeletons were on display. I believe there's pictures of it, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And now we can't find
any of it. Exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how the government works, and they are the shadiest. So
yeah. And people don't realize how much stuff gets covered up on a daily basis. Let me share another story. It's not my story. It's my buddy. Before I started working, it was like maybe a year before I had started, my partner was telling me a story about how he was on the highway, and there was another officer that was farther up the highway. They were in traffic, and my buddy called ahead on the radio, find out what was causing this sudden traffic jam on the highway. And he noticed that he saw a military helicopter flying over the highway. A big, I don't know what, he didn't know what it was. And the guy hit him back on the radio and said apparently the highway's been blocked off by the sheriffs because someone saw a Bigfoot run across the highway. Then it went over the radio, and that somebody saw this being standing by the road, and he, not my buddy, but the other guy, I guess he was explaining the call that went over the radio. So you'd be surprised what kind of stuff goes over, paranormal crap that'll go over police radio or county radios that you just wouldn't know about.
Yep.
Like that situation. Imagine that.
Yeah, that's actually, there was a
whatever
guy.
It was, there were ended up being two military helicopters that popped up and were like combing the forest area around the highway and had the highway blocked off for whatever reason.
Huh. Wow, that's pretty intense. Yeah, like you don't know, like it's very interesting. And speaking of that, that's crazy that military helicopters, because today I was heading up to the store to get some things ready for my trip for this conjuring house, and my daughter and I are going north. Now, the only thing north from here is the Adirondack, deeper in, we're at the foothills.
Right.
And I hear this thump, the helicopter thumping, and I'm like, huh. And I kind of peek my head over to the side, off the driver's side, and look out, and I'm like, that's a military helicopter. You can always tell a military helicopter. They're very slender, long, and very fast. This helicopter went straight north. There are no airports that way. The only other airport is in Albany, which is south, or our local airport, which is to the east. This is going straight north. It goes up and it veers to the west just a little and then cuts back north. And I'm like, what the hell is he doing up there? It was just came out of nowhere. And that's something, I've lived here all my life. I know there's no military base up there.
Dude, they be out there. They're out there being busy. They're up to something.
Yeah,
Usually, I tend to think that when you see stuff like that, which I've seen it a few times in life, where you'd see a military helicopter flying and with a searchlight, going over the forest. Like, what are they looking for?
Yeah. And this was that sandy kind of, brown. It wasn't black. It was just like, the olive kind of sandy brownish green, color. It was hauling. And I remember, my daughter picked up on it. She goes, that thing's moving, and for a 14-year-old to, register, for that to register with a, 14-year-old girl who doesn't like you know what I mean? Like men and boys like helicopters, unless you're a female pilot or something, but she, for that to register, that really struck me as odd. It was cool. I mean, I love helicopters anyway, but just to see it fly that way, and it had something off to the left side. It didn't look like something like an extension or something. I really couldn't make it out because it was high and it was flying fast, but it was pretty weird. And then to veer west and then head back north was, and that made me wonder, hey, what's going on up there? You
never know. And then a lot of times you'll think it's the military, and it's one of these no-name organizations that like don't have a name.
Yeah.
I've heard stories, about government organizations that come in when, somebody, gets mauled by something and it might be questionable. They, guess have their ways of removing evidence.
Being an animal control officer, that brings me to a question for you, if you don't mind. While you were on duty as an animal control officer, let's say a guy is mauled. You can't figure out, are you guys called to look first, or how does that work?
So,
like you don't know if it's a dog, cat, big cat, whatever.
See, like in the part of Ohio I'm at, like it's mostly city. We have country, but the bear, like we don't have bears really. There's no bear. Like I told you about that one, and it's like a rare thing if the like a bear might cross the state line or something like that. Yeah. And I did see a mountain lion one time, and that was just a fluke.
Yeah.
He wasn't supposed to be out there, so.
Yeah. No, I was just wondering if you knew, like, if there was like a protocol to it, because, that's what I've been looking into. I feel
like, so a person being murdered, the police would have showed up, and they, probably would have had the crime scene investigators just, find out what's going on with it. The only way they would have called us is if they knew the animal was still on the scene. Uh-huh. Like, the animal still running around. Yeah. And in that case, like I don't know if you ever heard of the show on Animal Planet called Animal Cops.
No.
But we've helped out we've actually been on that show before too.
Okay.
But we've helped out because a lot of the animal control, some of them don't have a doctor on standby that can, because when you use it like a dart gun, for instance, there were like times where we've had to, like I remember there was a time where we had to go somewhere to shrink a deer that had a bucket stuck on its head or something like that.
All right.
Had to shrink it to get the bucket off its head.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was like a certain procedure of how that worked or not.
Nah, they mostly would be the police that would be there. The only way that, like I said, the only way they would call us is if they thought the animal was still on the scene.
Okay.
But then a lot of times though, there are situations where if there was a situation where they didn't know that there was a body, and we stumbled across it, then, we would take care of the animal side of it, whatever animal aspect of it is. And then sometimes, even depending on the situation, we even might have to contact the game warden, depending on what's going on.
Yeah. Speaking of big cats, you had shared something with me earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Do you mind sharing that?
Sure. It was West County, way out in the country kind of area of the town I worked in. And I heard it go over the radio. It was like it was actually a sheriff who went over the radio. He was saying that, or he got dispatched. He got dispatched out to this location for a bunch of people in distress or something. And he went out there, and then I heard him go over the radio saying, yeah, I got eyes on some kind of big, really big black cat. It's big. And I'm like, all right. And then, of course, I said, well, I'll respond out there. I get on the scene, and of course, it's gone, whatever it was. But the thing that, the whole time I'm thinking, like, I was probably just a big old mastiff, a big old goofy dog out there running around scaring these people, I get out there, there's like 20 people standing outside their houses, all saying they saw a very big cat. Like, a jaguar, but the way a lot of people were explaining it was bigger.
Yeah.
So I don't know what,
like bear-sized or whatever.
It was absolutely humongous, whatever it was, and it was just stalking around backyards, and it scared people so bad. There were some people. I mean, this is kind of the country, so it was, there was people standing out with their shotguns, Yeah. Because whatever this thing was, it had people spooked. I never heard anything else about it, but that was an interesting call.
Yeah, it's definitely, like, when you shared that with me, it just...
I wish I would have saw it, the sheriff saw it, and he was like, it was too dark, but it was definitely humongous.
Yeah.
So...
That's pretty cool. We're coming up on time, on recording time. I want to talk to you for a few minutes after we end the recording, so don't hang up. Is there anything that you'd like to kind of share with the audience before we end the interview?
Guess I could say, when it comes to like Dogman people, that thing is, it's, for the way it's been explained to me, it's as intelligent as a person with your dog's instincts. These things, they're very cunning. And maybe I'll share a story one day, another day with you.
Yeah.
But that's all I got to share for now.
Awesome. Well, it was awesome having you on. I appreciate you sending me your encounter, and like you said, you got a couple other little things that you want to share. We can set up a date. Don't hang up. I do want to talk to you before.
All right.
But it was great having you on. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day, my friend. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Have a great night.
You too.
Dogman family, that was part 1 of this very informative interview with Hannibal. This is part 2, and it gets a little more creepy right here. Let's get into it. I had a subscriber named Hannibal on, and he, former animal control, had seen some stuff while on duty. And at the end of the interview, he said to me, hey, I have a brief Dogman experience that I'd like to share. Also, my aunt had shared an experience with me as well while she was in Alaska, living amongst the Native American people up there. And I reached out to him. Well, he reached out to me. I reached out back, and we got that interview done for you guys. And here it is. All right, everybody. Today I have a subscriber who was on a couple weeks back, and at the end of the upload, when he and I had talked at the end there, he had said, I've got a crazy experience with a Dogman, and I've got some family experiences that, had seen some stuff. So tonight I have Hannibal with us. Hannibal, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. All
right. Well, I appreciate you reaching back out, and I'm glad that we can connect and get this upload put out, because like when we ended our conversation, you had said, I got a Dogman encounter that you're going to want to hear. And I was like, dude, I got to hear it. And I haven't heard it. So it's going to be a surprise for me. And I'm looking forward to it.
It's nothing like freaking, I guess other people have had, really scary encounters. Mine was a real brief.
Right.
But yeah, I'll definitely share it.
All right, brother. Well, the mic is yours, and share away.
All right. So I was on vacation with my girlfriend at the time. I think we stayed in Sevierville, Tennessee, but of course we were going there for Gatlinburg, the whole Gatlinburg experience. We got a cabin and everything. We had a cabin up way up on a mountain, and our cabin was secluded. It was farther away from any of the other cabins on the mountain. And so I'll explain what happened this day, because this was a pretty interesting day. So we barbecued and everything. And later that night, I was watching TV, and my girlfriend had went to sleep early. And the garbage, so the cabin or chalet, whatever you want to call it, the way it was set up, the deck was like in the front. There was like a deck in the front, right? The idiots who rented us the cabin had the only outdoor garbage can was on the freaking deck, and it wasn't even bear proofed. So keep in mind, we barbecued earlier that day. So I'm sitting there watching TV. All of a sudden I hear something outside, sound like the garbage being rummaged through. So I open the door, and it's a little raccoon there. So I kind of, shoo him off with my foot, shoo him off the deck. And put the garbage can lid back on, go back in the cabin, continue watching whatever I was watching. About freaking 5 minutes later, I hear it again. I'm like, damn, we shouldn't have barbecued. So this time I'm like, shoo this little raccoon off again. I'm thinking it's the raccoon. So I open the front door, and I shut it behind me so the raccoon couldn't run in that, run up in the cabin. And this time, sitting there, and 3 feet away from me is a black bear. And I had my gun on me, but I just wasn't a good idea. And it was so close that I felt like if I try to open the freaking door back behind me, that'll end bad, because I know how fast bear can be. I ended up jumping off the deck and breaking my wrist, right? And as I'm laying in the grass holding my wrist, the bear just casually strolls past me, like looking at me, and strolls on down the road. And I was like, okay. And my girlfriend comes out like, what happened? I'm like, yeah, a bear was just going through the trash. So anyway, go back in the cabin, and I get in the hot tub probably a few hours later. It's dark now. And I'm sitting in the hot tub, and now the hot tub It's like it was like a looks like an addition built onto the cabin. It's on the back end of the cabin where the wooded area is, and it's like enclosed instead of it. It's almost like it's outside because it's no windows. It's just like a mesh or something. So I'm sitting in the hot tub, and I hear something right under the little makeshift room or wherever I'm at. It's like right in the wooded area. And, I hear something rustling around. I'm thinking, oh, it's probably an animal, of course. But I, decided to kind of lean over and peek over to see what's, going on down there. And, man, what I saw, I couldn't make sense of. It was a creature. First, I thought it was a bear because it was so big. But I kept looking, and I'm like, no, it's not a bear. Whatever it was like, I was behind the cabin the night before walking around. So I know how tall the shrubbery and stuff was. It was up past my knees. So I know if this was a bear, it's, whatever this thing is, like it couldn't have been a bear because this thing was crawling around in the bush. Like it wasn't walking in the bush. It was like it was crawling in it first off. And I'm looking down at it, and the light from the room is the only light that's shining that's allowing me to see this thing. And it's so long. I couldn't tell you how large this thing was, but I'm seeing the back of it, and it's black. It's black. And it's wide as a freaking it's as wide as a refrigerator.
Wow.
I'm looking at its back, and I'm still like I'm having such a hard time computing what I'm looking at. At first I'm like, is this too, like in my mind I'm like it's almost looking like I'm seeing two backs because it was so long, whatever it was. All of a sudden it turns around and looks right up at me like it knows like it just realized I'm watching it. Yellow eyes, piercing yellow eyes, not eye shine. It was like they were glowing, yellow eyes. And that's when I saw the head of this thing, and it was a wolf. It was a wolf's head, but wide, like no wolf I've ever seen. Like imagine like trying to think of. Okay, I don't know if you ever saw like one of the first like Incredible Hulk movie. Those pit bulls that were all hulked out.
Yeah.
How big their heads were, dude. This thing was huge. The descriptions I've heard of Dogman weren't like this. So I feel whatever this thing was, this was an abnormal or something. Like we would call, abnormally sized deer and stuff like abnormal. Like this would have to be an abnormal. This thing was huge. It looked up at me, and its ears were pointy and up when it looked up at me. Then all of a sudden, its ears went back. Like how your dog, like you scald your dog, or
right, like it's hearing you or something.
Or you see a wolf gets pissed off and they're freaked out and their ears go back. Yep. Its ears went back, and then it went up so like the cabin. It's kind of hard to explain. Like it was almost like up on a elevated, area. So it ran up the brush. The brush. I mean, it ran up the brush towards the cabin. Man, I jumped out of that hot tub so fast. Shut the lights out in that room. Shut the door. And my girlfriend was still in the other room asleep. And I couldn't tell her right then what I saw. She was such a scary person, man, that she would have made things worse. So right. I figured she would have made it way worse. If you know this girl, like she freaks out real easy. So I ran in the living room area, and I kind of I like kind of sat behind the couch. All of a sudden, I hear 4 loud, heavy footsteps onto the deck in the front of the cabin. But this cabin, there wasn't any windows in the front, so I couldn't look out and see, what it was exactly. Get a real great look at whatever, this wolf thing was. First, I knew that I guess I need to explain exactly how it looked when I was looking down at it. Like its back was humongous, man. Like the best thing I could think of is like a grizzly. I mean, this thing was wide. I looked at its waist. Like you've heard about people explain these things, and they're like a bodybuilder, and the waist goes down into like kind of a V. No, it was like I guess like how would you would explain a Bigfoot? Like its waist. It was like a tree trunk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was. There was no. Yeah, it was like back and then waist, and then I couldn't see the legs. They were in the brush. But dude, I saw the shoulders. And I saw like an arm, and I'm like, this is definitely not a wolf. This is definitely not a wolf. And so anyway, it's on the deck, and I hear that damn garbage can knock over, the same garbage can that the bear and the raccoon knocked over. This thing knocked over. Now I didn't have the balls to go to get too close to the front door to take a look, but I sat there quietly as it did whatever it was doing with the garbage. And then when it walked off, I didn't hear the 4 footfalls this time. Like it was walking on all fours. The fucker must have stood up and was walking on 2 feet as it walked off the deck. And once I sat there for about 30 minutes before I decided to even think about, walking towards the front door. I finally got the balls. I walk up to the front door, and it was gone. Thank God. Garbage can was knocked over, and there's a little bit of a musty, like kind of like a musty wet dog kind of smell. But other than that, that's all that happened. I never told my girlfriend, because I knew that if I did, that would have been the end of the trip, and I wanted to stay my extra day. I know that sounds crazy because it's like you just saw that thing and you want to stay an extra day, but yeah, I did. We left. We did leave the very next day though, after walking around and doing our thing in Gatlinburg. But that's my Dogman story. Nothing too exciting, but just the way it looked.
Well, there's something that you and I had said prior to you even sharing this with me, and we had talked about how I view every encounter, whether it be short, long, all the same, because we're seeing something that we are told from a very young age does not exist. So
right.
Even the briefest glimpse of one of these things is an experience.
I got a good enough look at him to where I could draw him though. I saw his face. But nothing interesting happened other than that. I mean, he didn't show any teeth. It didn't show any aggression.
Right.
But it definitely noticed that I was up there looking at him, and he did not care that I was up there. And for whatever, I'm thinking in my mind, it's, when it walked up on the deck, I'm thinking, oh my God, it's going to try to come in. It saw me and now it's going to try to come in.
Yeah.
I was panic. I didn't bring a shotgun. I had 2 handguns. I had a 45, a paracarry, and a little 9mm. It wouldn't have, the firearms I brought wouldn't have done nothing for this thing.
Right.
Just looking at, and now I didn't see its legs, but just remembering how long this thing was and how wide it was. this thing, I mean, I don't know for sure. I didn't see it stand up, but I keep thinking like this thing must have been 12 feet tall. It was so freaking long. Just from its butt to its head. That's all I saw. But it just didn't seem right, man. And like, I'll say this, because I was exposed and told about a lot of things when I was younger from my mother's aunt and my father telling me, about different things, paranormal things, that it wasn't, world breaking for me, because I kind of figured, this stuff exists.
Right.
But, seeing it with your own eyes, it was quite an experience.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing.
And like I said to you earlier, it's edifying at the same time, because it's like this is proof right here that these things, that what my mother's aunt told me is true. These things really do exist.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're it's one thing to believe in them. If you have, like you said, your aunt had shared something with you, it's one thing to believe in them because someone told you about them, but when you see it, it's a whole different ball game at that point.
Yeah. So
your aunt, I'm assuming your aunt,
my mother's aunt,
your mom's aunt. So your great aunt had seen something and shared. Were you guys close?
Oh,
Is that
man.
how she had came to share this with you, or?
Okay. So this story is gonna sound out there, man, but I'm gonna tell it.
Okay.
Because she would have wanted me to tell it. She's passed away 11 years ago. Okay. So she's in Alaska. She's been in Alaska since maybe late 60s, early 70s. And she got really cool with a family. I think they're called the Aleut people. I think the native people there,
okay,
at least in this region where she was at, they're called the Aleut. She got really close with this family. And, I mean, she kind of looked like them, so she fit right in. Well, their story is they were out grilling somewhere, out barbecuing. There was a bunch of them. And all of a sudden, and this was the sun was out, okay? So this is not like this was at night. They're grilling. It's a bunch of people, probably, well, not a bunch, but at least 12 people, 12 or, so people out there grilling, men, women. And she says all of a sudden a black wolf came kind of trotting up, and everybody was noticing how big it was. It was big as a bear. And it comes trotting up, and all of a sudden everybody gets up from the picnic tables and stuff and starts, backing away.
Uh-huh.
So all of a sudden she said it started running towards them. And then that's when everybody broke out except one lady. She said this lady left the bench to run, but then came back for her plate of food and then ran. And she said that this thing jumped up on one of the picnic tables and started chowing down. That it had arms and legs in broad freaking daylight. This thing did this, okay? And she said that the Aleut family, they ran away from the picnic area, but they didn't completely leave the area. Like they sat there and waited till it was done, and then they went back. And she told me that though the family they ran into this thing before, that this is like I don't want to say a normal thing, but most people would have ran the hell away, got in their cars, took the hell off, right?
Right.
Something like this occurred. These people didn't. And think about this. The one lady went back to get her plate of food.
Yeah.
Who does that? I wouldn't do that even for a black bear, man.
Yeah.
I know Alaska people are built different, man, but it just kind of told me, like, that there's a possibility that, there's quite a lot of people who encounter these things. This family of people must have encountered this Dogman or some type of Dogman before, to where they didn't feel that they were in danger enough to completely take off. I don't know. But that's her story. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
If you could just even imagine that happening.
Yeah, that's pretty insane.
And I believe her. I believe 100% that it happened.
When she shared that with you, was she still in Alaska? Were you up there visiting?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were visiting. Oh, yeah. And so the Loop family, we hung out with them too. And she brought it up with, I forget her name. It was like a family. It was like 2 boys, a daughter, and the mother, who she was about the same age as my mother's aunt, and she verified for me. She was, it ate all of our food, and she was pretty pissed off about it. The way she told the story, it didn't seem to me like it was a frightful experience for her. It's like something that they deal with. And I was younger at the time. I was amazed at the whole situation that this could have happened.
Yeah.
And then this a Loop lady telling me, yeah, it happened. So, I don't know, man.
That's wild.
It seems like they're
How did the subject of that get brought up?
I can't remember. You know why it came up? Because this one time when we went to Alaska, a jogger got mauled.
Okay.
On a trail that we ended up going on later, and my grandfather mentioned the lady getting mauled, and my mother's aunt started talking about cryptids.
Okay. Wow, that's pretty crazy.
And she was saying how yeah, a lot of times they'll blame these maulings on a bear, and it's not a bear.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And then she went on to say, like, well, she's like, well, like, I had an encounter with she didn't call it a dog, man. I forget what she called him, but yeah,
that's awesome.
Big wolf person.
That's just, it's really, like, I say awesome because I have been for the last 2 years looking into a lot of these attacks, and that do not make any sense at all. Some make a lot of sense. Some, are clearly it was a wild animal, or it was a dog mauling or something like that. But then there's the ones that just don't make any sense, that fly under the radar. They may make the news for a couple of days, and then they are quietly swept under the rug. And, that's very interesting that back then, even,
oh yeah,
that
but
she was aware of it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the natives were very much aware of it.
Yeah.
It's, you talk to the people in the city, like Anchorage, they'll say, oh, it's just a bear, whatever. But
yeah,
talk to some of the people around. It's just like the natives here, like you'll hear some history.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that's crazy. I mean, and it's very interesting. I find it fascinating that, your aunt was, obviously being aware of these creatures back then, but being aware of the cover-up back then as well. So it's been a very long time that the government has been keeping these secrets from us, and formulating the best way to do it with the media and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely. Any other kind of family experiences with any kind of, up in Alaska or anything like that?
Not that I can remember. She's told me so many stories.
Right.
I know she's had some encounters with some squatches,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you a story that's my father served in Vietnam.
Okay.
And when I was younger, his buddy would come by, and they had this tradition where he would come over, and they would be in the basement drinking beer and smoking weed, and they watched that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Commando, and they would get as blasted as they could. And they would try to count how many people Arnold killed in the movie. And one time he came over, and my father and him were talking about Vietnam and how he was a helicopter gunner.
Okay.
And he got shot down over the jungle 3 times. And he said, I don't know if he said the second time he went down, they ran up out of they were running through the jungle, and you didn't know what you never know what I mean, he never bullshitted or anything, but they're down there smoking and drinking. You never know what the hell is going on, But he's telling this story that they started getting rocks thrown at them, and it was some kind of little ape people in Vietnam. He said they ran from them too.
Yeah.
I don't know what he called them, rock apes or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm listening to this story, and I'm like, come on, man, like what?
Yeah, and they weren't like monkeys.
Never heard of this shit. And my father's like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he said, they're throwing. Said they weren't, trying to kill them. They were just mischievous as hell, like throwing rocks, and I guess they were already running, and they took off running after them and started throwing rocks. How true this story is, I have no clue.
Probably pretty true, because my dad was in Vietnam, and there's been a lot of other people who have seen these things. They're not considered like there's been anthropologists that have gone out into the jungles of Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, and looked for these things. And supposedly I had heard or I had read actually something about the rock apes, and it was an anthropologist had written that he believed that even though they did resemble kind of a monkey or simian or whatever, that he thought they were possibly some kind of lost tribe that lived in the jungles of Vietnam and the east over there, because there are like cities that the jungle
he said
had swallowed
this thing
up.
was covered in fur, though, man. I don't know how that could be a person.
Yeah, well, that's what the anthropologist said, because with evolution and stuff, it was an interesting article, and he just said possibly because they stood how they ran and how the bone structure was.
So it could just be like a subhuman.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
And how they were, with monkeys, their arms are a lot longer. And these things were adapt to like throwing rocks, hence the rock ape. And
and they say like what is it, like most primates, they can't really
chuck a rock.
They can't really throw. At least they probably can chuck a rock, but they can't chuck one like we can.
Right, with aim and power and
precision.
Speed. Yeah. That's interesting. I like to hear experiences out of Vietnam. It's you ever hear this story about how some soldiers right in the middle of a fight would get snatched out of the air? Or?
Right in the middle of fighting, they'd be in the middle of fighting in the jungle, and they'd get snatched. And they would always say, tiger, big cats must have snatched these people while they were in the middle of fighting.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
there's a
sure you've
lot
heard
of
some of this,
weird
right?
stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff. I heard there was a
Well, I heard that they weren't getting snatched by big cats.
no.
They were. The story is anyway that they were getting snatched by giants.
Yeah.
Just like what was it in World War I? There were rumors of soldiers being snatched by giants on the Solomon Islands.
Yeah.
I want to look that one up.
There was a story, an experience in Vietnam that there was two that I had heard that, well, there's many of them that I heard, but there's two that stick out. A group of guys had found a cave, and they were watching the cave. They were looking for the Viet Cong. They stake out this cave for a little while, and out comes kind of like a reptilian looking creature, probably 6-7 feet tall. And there was, more than one. One came out, kind of saw it, went back in, and I guess the troops ended up opening fire on them. There was another experience that I heard where there was a couple of guys, or a small platoon or whatever, and they were on a embankment, so they were trying to climb this hill, to get to the fight. They're pinned down on this hill, and by the Viet Cong, and all of a sudden these rock apes came out and started to pick apart the Viet Cong and the American GI with, they weren't fighting any side. They were just, randomly going after
beating everybody up.
Yeah, yeah. And then, of course, there's the kind of tales of UFOs being spotted throughout the jungle and, with helicopter.
They're spotted in every war.
Yep, yep. Which is, it's crazy to think that, a UFO, that many sightings would be in Vietnam, but maybe they're drawn to the combat, to the action,
something's going on.
The heat of the moment. So
you hear they've been seeing them in Ukraine.
Oh, no, I didn't hear that. Yeah, well, that's crazy. Yeah. Well, do me a favor, don't hang up. I want to talk to you for a couple minutes before we end it, but I want to end this right now because coming up on time, but I want to talk to you after. So it was awesome having you back, and I appreciate you coming back and sharing your experience. I really enjoyed
no problem.
The your mom's aunt's experience. It was a refreshing thing to hear, being completely aware that these things exist, but also back then being aware that the government is covering this crap up is cool. So
yeah.
But Hannibal, awesome having you back, and have a great night, brother. All right, folks, that was the two-parter with Hannibal sharing his own experiences as an animal control officer and also his family's experiences. Wow. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this second half as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you all. Guys, thank you for supporting this channel. It is, after all, your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go, and honestly what makes it a place for people to share their experiences, ideas, and theories, ridicule and judgment-free, just simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you very much. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures and scenarios are real. These things are out there. They are dangerous. Share this information with the people you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for answers, and God bless you all.